What is the scariest, creepiest theory you know about? That my mother-in-law keeps accidentally leaving things at my house because she is slowly moving in. Edit. My mother-in-law is awesome. I had this girlfriend who was doing that. And I could tell she was doing it. It was kind of annoying she never asked. But I was kind of impressed at how well she played me like a fiddle. She's sitting next to me now and we just put our kids to bed. The theory that the last moments of consciousness before death can feel like a little eternity. And where your mind can create entire realities from blissful to horrifying. So in a way the threat of enduring an eternal suffering is entirely possible. Edit. So dying is like dropping acid. Don't do it unless you're in a good headspace. Edit. Well fuck. My inbox is never going to recover. This is my hell. Years ago when I was seriously dating my now wife. Almost every time we started to have sexy time her mother would call up. Seemed strange. Then disgusting when we found the hidden camera when moving her out. Our world is our perception of our surroundings in our three-dimensional life. It's possible that we are living amongst beings. Things and events that we cannot experience because we are three dimensions and they are not. Nice to see this in the thread. I always wonder that maybe ghosts, aliens, and even heaven itself are real. But could be in a dimension humans can never interpret. It's like a 2D cartoon character trying to make out us humans. Fascinating stuff. We could be a brain in someone's basement. Just imagining our whole life and everyone we meet. Edit. I made this as a joke. I didn't know it had so many layers to it. You old already known that if you looked at my name. I think I'm a normal dude browsing Reddit on my bed. But it's possible that in reality I'm in a mental hospital banging my head against the wall. The theory that Carson Wentz and Prince Harry switched lives in 2019 and that's why Wentz sucks at football and Harry left the royal family. If the human body senses trauma it is unable to combat, it will switch off metabolism, pump endorphins, and slip into a pain-free dissociative state. In essence, shutting down. It's been seen in air crashes and lots of places really. Basically your body can switch itself off. Not a theory but reality. Schizophrenia can happen to anyone. At any age. Even to perfectly healthy people. Imagine being normal and then waking up one day and seeing and hearing things that aren't actually there. That is really scary and creepy. I mean technically that is true. But diagnosis is much more common in men from early teens to 20s. And for women 20s to 30s. Being diagnosed after 40 is not very common. That we have so little data about the deep dark parts of the ocean and don't truly know what lurks there. The one that bugs me was the one about the guy who was last seen in an airport. There's video of him just wigging the FCK out and running away at full speed. They linked the surveillance footage and you can see him run all the way off the premises. He was never seen again. There's lots of theories about what happened. None I wanna look too far into. The butterfly effect. It makes me feel like deciding whether to choose black shirts or white shirts would increase or decrease my chances of dying young. Edit. I wore a blue undershirt. I wonder what will happen. Edit 2. To all the people saying that I am chiddy and agony. You all made my day. Humans are scared of things that mimic them too perfectly. The theory is that we developed this because there was a super predator of some sort that would mimic us and kill us. But we never knew what happened to it. The theory is actually that we were really similar to Neanderthals and other humanoids that were around for a significant time at the same time as Homo sapiens. A lot of comments bringing up the Fermi paradox to explain the lack of evidence of extraterrestrial life. When by all accounts we should be seeing alien life all over the universe. Here's another unsettling explanation. If you're scuba diving above a coral reef, and you know that there should be fish all around you, but you don't see any, it's most likely that they have learned that for some reason it's important not to be seen. And since you're a newcomer to this environment, chances are it's not you they're hiding from. It's scary that there are thousands of serial killers out there at any one given time who often just blend in with the rest of society and live normal lives. Many will never be caught. That you might be aware of everything happening to you during surgery. The anesthesia keeps you from moving and causes you to forget. Yeah, before my wisdom teeth removal, the nurse told me that patients can still partially respond to the commands of the doctor while under anesthesia. They just don't remember this afterward. When I went under, I didn't even remember falling asleep. Oop, this one hits close to home. I had an eye surgery a few years ago that I needed to stay conscious for in order to move the eye around for the surgeon. I felt completely paralyzed by the anesthesia and unable to speak. But I still felt a lot of what was being done. After a while, the surgeon, I guess, got concerned about my heart rate or breathing or something and asked if I was okay and upped the anesthesia. But damn, it seemed like ages. I remember the panic of being in pain. But I don't remember the pain itself. If that makes sense. I have massive anxiety about surgeries and anesthesia now. Also kind of related, I've heard that following childbirth, a woman's brain gets flushed with a bunch of love chemicals that both further attach her to the baby. And also basically dull her memory of just how painful the birth was. Otherwise many women would suffer massively from PTSD and would not be inclined to go through it again. Some people have had some strange NDEs, near-death experiences. Going through websites cataloging them can be a trip. I'm willing to attribute some of them to brain damage and some as legit, though I'll never be able to tell which is which. Deathbed visions give me a warmer sense of security. I can't imagine how peaceful it must be to die and see your deceased loved ones there to ensure you make it safely to the other side. More of a story than a theory. But it correlates to some of these and makes me think some could be real. When I was younger, I had this little stuffed animal dog I named Rocky. One night, my younger sisters and I, who all slept in the same room so we could hang out together, were messing around. And I two-handed overhead tossed Rocky into the wall directly in front of my bed. He hit the wall, slid down behind whatever was in front of my bed, and was never seen again. I immediately went to go get him and he just wasn't anywhere. We tore the whole entire small room apart. We all saw the event occur. Over time the room has been completely emptied out. Everything in it rearranged. Walls painted. Everything, and no Rocky. He just completely phased out of existence. Makes me think he glitched out of the system or something. The Gaussian bottleneck theory. Basically the reason we've never encountered or been contacted by aliens is because they're all dead. Every alien species that evolved to form advanced societies eventually outgrew their planet and destroyed themselves. Like we are. I think it's probably because, just like how aliens probably exist because the universe is really big, they probably haven't gotten here because the universe is really big. People underestimate how hard it is to travel between galaxies. You basically can't outside of a small select few in your local group. Not only is it practically impossible, it's borderline theoretically impossible. The only way it's possible is if unproven quirks in the mathematics of physics actually happen to be indicative of reality. The theory that we're all quantum immortals and when someone dies in our reality for them they just keep on going in a reality where they didn't. This is very true. The theory basically says that all the parallel forms of ourselves are basically one infinite lifetime playing simultaneously, and every time we survive a bad death experience, we actually continue in another lifetime. I'm in a nursing home with dementia in 2060. And all I'm doing is reliving this moment of November 2020. Cosmology can be disturbing. For instance, I recently learned of dead-end trips. There are some destinations that you shouldn't try for. It's possible to travel so far away from where you started that the expansion of the universe will exceed the speed you were traveling at. You can't return home because home is receding faster than you can travel. You can't reach your destination because it too is receding faster than you can travel. You can no longer get anywhere, only get further away from everything. You cannot reach any destination, even if you travel forever. Spontaneous combustion. I watched a strange but true episode about this as a child and was convinced I'd randomly burst into flames one day. I'm over it now, but that was my top fear for a long time. There's a theory that the universe is expanding and compacting again. Repeated forever. And that with each expansion we relive history all over again, but with slight differences. Remember that time you had deja vu? Some people think you're seeing a previous version of history play out. Which means you're stuck reliving your life. Forever. It's a darker spin on the multiverse idea, I suppose. Sometime in the future, if we don't disappear before, humans will probably be able to bioengineer themselves to avoid death by old age. Most probably only the richest people would get this, founding an immortal elite of dynasties that will be able to rule nations by themselves, while common people simply keep dying as always. Now almost everyone think of death as something normal and inevitable, as part of our nature. But then, in that hypothetical future, death will be seen like a disease which it's kept away from common people by that ruling elite. That nobody has any free will and that everything in your future is actually already predetermined. What constitutes free? Sit quietly and just observe your mind. Watch the next thought that arises. Did you decide to think that? Where did it come from? Does it matter? If everything is predetermined but you are unable to determine it, how is that functionally different from things being indeterminate? What is the alternative to determinism? If it's not possible to derive what happens from what came before, that would mean randomness somehow rules. Is fundamental chaos really preferable to you? Or any more free? If you die by being beheaded, the last thing you might see is your decapitated body. May or not be a theory, but the first thing I thought of was that feeling you get when you're on top of a building and think, what if I jumped? Or when you're driving and think, what if I just swerve into traffic? Double quote. Well, it's actually got a name. El Apple du Vide. French for the call of the void. I always thought the idea of some ethereal presence calling you towards darkness. Creepy. During the Challenger accident from 1986, whenever the shuttle exploded, the ground crews had the astronauts' EKGs and vital scans. After the explosion, the astronauts were still alive. Theory has it that they were cognizant the entire time until they crashed in the ocean. The theory that scented candles starting getting poor reviews at the same time COVID hit the US makes you wonder how many people have mild COVID before we even knew about it. Pairing the lack of taste and or smell as one of the main symptoms associated with mild COVID cases. That the numbers of people that go missing per year expressed as a percentage happens to be the same percentage as the amount of animals that get picked off from a herd in a year by predators. It implies we are being farmed. That the universe is infinite and there could be billions of other living organisms that all know about us and have significantly better technology and could wipe us out at any moment but choose to leave us be because they know that we don't know about them. Kinda like some indigenous tribes that live secluded and don't know that we are this civilized and technologically advanced. Roswell was supposed to be a welcome mission. A trip to see if we were worth sharing technology with and incorporating into a galactic league. We butchered the emissary and repurposed the technology to build horrifying weapons. So we were quarantined, and we will remain forever locked out of the galactic community. Time is long. The next intelligent species will be approached with an invite. But not us. That mind control actually exists. It's something that would never go public because whoever was able to perfect it first would be in the position to use it on whoever is aware of its existence. The great power of social media is they discovered they didn't have to control anyone's mind. They just put people in a bubble of misinformation until they make their own mind up. You're dying and just remembering everything in your final moment. Kind of an explanation for Mandela effect. You remember something slightly different as the memories deteriorate in your dying brain. This is pretty cliche, but the theory that your whole known life you've been in a coma and have imagined everything. Your family isn't really your family and everyone and everything doesn't actually exist. Then when you wake up you'll have to live through life all over again with connections you've made to fake people. Backroom. You could be walking along minding your own businesses. You know, clip into a strange dimensional limbo that is nothing but endless corridors that lead nowhere. That the world actually ended with the discovery of the Higgs boson particle. So essentially we're living in a shitty simulation of reality because the world is actually destroyed. That all those Mandela effect instances are because the creators of the simulation missed things. We're in the Matrix now. Bitches. But really? No. The world just reached a peak of humanity a while back and has been on the exponential downward slope ever since. Edit. I wrote bosom because I like my bosom and others. I suppose. God exists, but it's not all loving. There's a creepy pasta somewhere. Turns out God is literally the shepherd of humans. Shepherds don't look after sheep to be nice. They look after the sheep to prepare them for the butcher. So to save you reading through all the comments, I'll sum it up. Your consciousness lives on forever. You decide whether that's a good or bad thing. There is a theory which states that if ever anyone discovers exactly what a universe is for and why it is here, it will instantly disappear and be replaced by something even more bizarre and inexplicable. There is another theory which states that this has already happened. Douglas Adams. A theory where when you die your mind is conscious for 7 seconds and in those 7 seconds you relive your whole life, meaning you could be dead right now but just rewatching it. That there is no secret society controlling everything. And humans by themselves are destroying humanity and themselves. And it's just easier to think that it's someone else behind all the evil. The theory that at any moment time will stop and we will all be frozen in time for eternity. Now I doubt we will be conscious during that, but it's a terrifying idea. Sometimes I'll encounter random strangers that I get a strange vibe from. Like they're noticing me more. It's made me think. What if there are time traveling tourists just walking around? And I'm someone important and they want to meet me before I do whatever it is I'm going to do? Double quote. That the smallest thing that anybody does could affect all of humanity in the end. And that if I do anything, it has the potential to change the world. Otherwise known as the butterfly effect. That every time you sleep you die and someone else wakes up in your body thinking they are you. Or the other theory that you will live out everyone's lives at some point. And you have already lived out a few. But just don't remember. It sucks because you're not gonna know when you wake up as a kid, only to be prepped up to have your head sawn off and posted on the internet. And then live that same life over and over again. Until you're the killer. Depressive realism. It's a theory that depressed people's views are fundamentally correct regarding the nature of life. I think it's kind of shitty and unhelpful, but it's not 100% wrong. Edit. This blew up. So I kinda feel guilty. Depressed people have plenty of unrealistic thoughts too. It is a psychological disorder after all. It can get better. I swear. That we'll never know who what created us. Even if God is real and we meet him. Then who created God? And who created the guy who created God? And the one before that? We'll never know. The Mandela effect freaks me out. Namely the theory regarding its cause that speculates that the person experiencing it died in an alternate timeline. It kind of ties into quantum theory, and the slight changes are indicative of having shifted realities. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. But so many aspects tie in too neatly to my life's timeline to not freak me out a bit. Especially because I can swear I remember it being Berenstain Bears. And that there was a movie starring Sinbad about a genie that was released around the same time as Shaq's Chasm. I don't care what anyone says. I'll die on this hill. Or, will I? I don't believe this myself. But it's creepy. That aliens truly do exist. The US government knows about it. And in exchange for slowly leaking alien technology, the extraterrestrials are allowed to abduct tens of thousands of citizens per year and mutilate cattle. A variant on this is that the aliens don't come from the stars. Instead, they live in vast underground tunnel and cave systems. Yet another variant is that the aliens aren't extraterrestrial. They are interdimensional. And what cultures used to call devils, demons, jinns, giants and dragons, we call aliens today. and ascribe a technological origin. Time is an illusion. You live like you will continue living into the future. But since the matter in your mind is constantly being replaced through time, you are not the same consciousness. There is no soul or afterlife. Only the brain. And it was an evolutionary hiccup that we are smart enough to contemplate our own mortality. We just end when we die. Same as other animals or plants. In Doctor Strange they suggested that magic is the source code of the universe. And spells exploit that code. The Matrix sequels, yeah. I know, also said vampires and ghosts are bad code left over from previous simulations. If there is actually magic or any paranormal events have ever actually occurred. Perhaps our universe is a simulation and some rare events have uncovered glitches in the code. IDK if it's scary in the usual sense, but the whole concept of entropy and its implications are creepy to me. So at the quantum level you have billions of possibilities. Things that simply aren't possible at our usual scale are commonplace. The possibilities narrow as you scale up in mass. Like an ant can fall from insane heights and survive. Where an elephant can't jump up without risking broken bones. So it follows that at some point a scale up to universe size, there will be only one possibility and from there none. Calvinism through physics. Keeps me awake at night. This is one I thought of that tormented me as a kid. No one else is real. Sure. We're taught others have emotions. But do they? Yes. Timmy cried when I punched him. But is he like me? Does he have thoughts? Or was he just programmed to cry? I think the worst part of it is that I'd never know. Black holes are temporary portals to another timeline where everything is better or worse. And only a few things have passed through. And we live in one too. And some people have been lucky enough to pass through and enter our world. Philosophical zombies. Theory that a good portion of the human race lack conscious experience. If you've ever dissociated or done something and don't recall, driven home but have no recollection, your brain acting on autopilot, that's what they're like. They do everything required to be human. They ape emotions. Go through life. They just lack sentience. The SCP Foundation's theory of non-reality, 3001, that can be entered via a wormhole becoming broken and ejecting matter midway through it. It is a dead zone between realities that is in a sense infinite and contains no matter. Gravity or space and time has very limited interactions with it. Due to the reality scale of said space being nearly non-existent. Matter decomposes over many years. Years spent in non-reality are like seconds in our world, and living organisms slowing break apart whilst being mostly alive in the process. Being trapped there is a horrible fate where you are in utter darkness and loneliness for years as your body decomposes while you are still alive. Anti-gear. Originally, before life evolved, the Earth's atmosphere was filled with carbon. Plant life evolved and started pulling carbon out of the atmosphere and putting it into the ground. Gear evolved humans who began to pull carbon out of the earth and put it back into the atmosphere. I saw a video about the theory of grey goop, in which one day we invent micro-robots used to break down waste, but could somehow evolve to consume all carbon-based organic matter. This would eventually lead to them consuming all life on Earth. I was mildly freaked out by the idea of it. It'd be the most horrifying means of extinction. That we can sense when someone is watching us. So when we're alone and we get that feeling, someone is probably watching you. One time when I was younger, might have been around 10 or 11, I was playing WWE on my PS3 in my room. And I got the sense that someone was watching me from outside the window. Lo and behold, I hear a knock on my window and run to get my father. My GF has a story. When she was 13, she and her friend would watch horror movies in the dark of her room. A room that was located next to a fenced canal. One night, they both look over to see a pair of eyes through the blinds. Watching them, they run from the room screaming only to be told by the father of the house that they had been watching too many scary movies. 2 months later, the mother of the house opened the door to a strange man who proceeded to pay and kill her. When he was caught, He admitted to having stalked the house for months before the murder. My GF and her friend had actually seen this deranged rapist murderer watching them. Peas. I can post link to the news story if proof is needed. This world is one fked up place, folks. The theory about why aliens haven't contacted or interacted with us is because they have observed our planet's society and determined that we're still too primitive and there's basically no point talking to us. You wouldn't walk into a rainforest and try to have an intellectual conversation with a monkey because they wouldn't understand what you're saying. I also like the theory that the UFOs we see could potentially be of extraterrestrial origin. And they are most likely just advanced drones going around to each planet in the galaxy, recording the data and daisy chaining it back to a civilization that probably doesn't even exist anymore. Okay, this is a weird one, but me and my dad seen this one guy come out the gas station and he was bald and pale as shit with no hair at all. He was walking away from us as we were sitting in our truck eating. And I told my dad that he looked weird and resembled what people call the MIB. And that he might be an alien. I know it sounds dumb, but this guy just didn't look real. He looked so odd. When I said that to my dad, the guy quickly looked at me like he had heard me. He was like 20 feet away and we had our windows up. Right when he looked at me, I panicked and did the chin down nod that guys usually do, and he nodded back and turned away. And then drove around us once and did the index finger wave almost like he knew what I had said. But that shit had me thinking for quite some time. I still bet my dad that he was alien or something because with his weird demeanor and looks he fit the profile. That Yellowstone National Park can erupt at any time. And the eruption would destroy the entire planet. I just wanna play Minecraft, man. I don't wanna have to fight to the death to get on Noah's Ark. It's not highly probable. It's really not even possible anymore. Firstly, it won't just erupt out of nowhere. There will be a lot of warning before it does. Years, maybe decades. Secondly, there are a lot of different plans being worked on in terms of regulating the pressure in the caldera. Plans that will most definitely be in place long before any eruption were to naturally happen. When you have a near-death experience, you do actually die. But your conscientiousness here teleports and takes over a life you have in a parallel universe. This provides a little bit of comfort for me if this is true, because I just lost my dad and want to imagine him getting out of the hospital and not dying. There is this theory in the back of my mind that everything I see and feel is just some kind of daydream I create for myself. Because in reality I am being terribly tortured for eternity. So every time this thought comes to surface, I try hard to think it away. So I stay in happy ignorance little longer. That the light at the end of the tunnel is the moon and it's some type of soul harvester. In which it's recycled, reincarnation. And in so I say this. When you die, you see the light. Just turn around and look real quick. I'm not saying don't completely not go into the light. Just see what's behind you first. Not a theory, but a condition. Sometimes a pregnant woman's brain can just break. She begins to believe her child isn't hers. Or that it's a demon. Or an alien. The worst part is these are perfectly healthy people who were otherwise happy and well adjusted beforehand. But when they get so far along in their pregnancy, the hormones can do something in their brain to change them completely. They become obsessed with the idea that their baby isn't theirs. Is some foreign object invading their body. The idea that for some people the happiest time in their life can be a time of pain and madness for others is terrifying. Especially since there's just no telling if or when it will happen. Obligatory not me, but comment here. My dad says he knows a theory about the book 1984 being a secret instruction manual detailing what will happen to the government and how to fight back and survive it. And that's the reason why it was banned. The theory that we don't know as much as we think we do. Any f-king thing you could think of happening could happen at any moment. Destroying everything we thought we knew about the way the universe works. It's not a theory. But more of a thought that's scary. Two possibilities. Either we are alone in the universe, or we are not. Both thoughts are terrifying. The idea that Earth is just a little electron rotating around the sun, a proton, which is all part of an atom, our solar system, which is part of a larger molecule, our galaxy, etc. This isn't so much a theory as much as a situation from a game that's not impossible, and that is that the pain you feel at the exact instant of your death you feel for all eternity after. Static on radio and TV transmissions is either cosmic background radiation left over from the Big Bang or the computer hum that proves we are living in a simulation. All reality is information. If you could manipulate the information your mind receives indefinitely, then you become God of your reality. If all information is cut off to your mind, then you become nothing. A theory that after our death our souls live our life once again within 7 minutes, but to the human brain it is the actual time we took in our life. Example. If I live 70 years, there is a chance that I am living it again right now within 7 minutes of real life, but it feels 70 years to me and my brain. More like the argument between which theory is correct. I'm an atheist. Everyone has their beliefs as to what happens when we die, but in the end we all die and nobody has a single definite answer. Do you ever think about someone that died during your lifetime and think to yourself, all the questions have been answered for them and they actually know what happens after death? If only they could tell us too, so we'd be less scared. Death is horrifying for me. It's inevitable, but it's still scary. I just hope I die peacefully, and I hope that whatever happens is a good thing. Dark forest theory. The most unsettling solution to the Fermi paradox. We haven't met aliens yet, because civilizations that are capable of interstellar travel are scared shitless of finding a more advanced civilization that will wipe them out and take their resources. Because of this, young civilizations new to the galactic family get conquered, wiped out, enslaved. The theory that we are all living in a simulation is pretty insane. I was watching a video by either the infographic show or someone similar on the idea. They said that it would be possible to have a computer powerful enough to power such a simulation, with math as its basis. It really could be true. If you learn about how the universe was created from literally something infinitely small, and is now infinitely expanding, the universe as a whole is completely mind-boggling, and TBH living in a simulation would explain a lot.